Hey y'all. So, as you already know, we have a super powerful full moon that is coming upon us on August the 19th, 2024, in the sign of Aquarius. And at this particular time, along with the full moon, the energy in the skies are bringing forth chaos, tension, struggle, just thickness, and not necessarily bad, change and transformation and sudden shocking events, all of those things. But we're going to talk about why this full moon and all of those energies at this particular moment in time is doing what they're doing. We're going to talk about those details, tease it out, and describe how it's going to be affecting each and every one of you based on your sun, moon, or rising signs. But first, before we even get into that, let's talk about what a full moon actually is. So a full moon is an opposition between the moon and the sun. And sometimes we can categorize oppositions as challenging energy. It really just depends on what sign the sun and the moon are in, and do those signs or their ruling planets, do they play nicely? Right? So you have the sun and the moon sitting across from each other, giving us our full moon. And in full moon energies bring forth with it a burst of energy. A surge of energy that energizes us to move and to do things, to make action, where we didn't before. So if you had a desire to change something, if you had an idea, if you wanted to do something, and you have a full moon hitting it with its burst of energy, you're going to move on that thing. But full moon's energy is so unrefined, is so unprocessed. It's kind of chaotic in itself, because it's just new and it's just a burst of thing. Although it has an energy of bringing things to fruition. It has an energy of bringing things to light, but it's still untamed because we haven't had a chance to sit with that energy and direct it in the way that we want it to do, and to bring about what we want it to bring about, because it hits us so suddenly. Now, what's special about this full moon and all of its glory, bringing its energy with it, it's going to be very close to us. And so this is why it's a super moon. A super full moon happens when the moon is close to us. So we feel its energy a bit more potently, right? Because it's closer to us. So we have that going on. Not only do we have that going on, we have some other challenging conversations in the skies, or challenging conversations between the planets that are happening in the skies. And I call it conversations because it's easier to kind of convey exactly what's happening. And so if you think about it, think about yourself when you're having a conversation with your best friend, or you're having a conversation with somebody that you get along with. The energy is easy. You're passing ideas, you're laughing, you're keying, and everything is all good because the energy between you and that person, or between you and those people, if it's a group of friends, it's all good. But imagine the person that you don't get along with at work because they always got a snide remark. They always are too critical. They always are very nosy. They always are, you name it. They're doing something that just rubs you the wrong way, or you're doing something that rubs them the wrong way, and the energy between you is just not good. Or every time you get in a room with somebody, you have it's argument, it's frustration, it's, you know what I mean? It's just not easy. And so I like for you to think about it that way, because this is actually what's happening in the sky. It's not the easy conversations that's happening. It's the ones that are hard. It's the one that brings intensity. It's the ones that bring the challenges and the struggles and the conflict. That is what's actually happening. And that is, those conversations are being energized by the energy that the moon is bringing. So what are those aspects or those conversations like that are happening in the sky? Number one, we have oppositions. Number two, we have squares. So oppositions aren't necessarily bad, but they do bring intensity, and it depends on how those planets actually gel or not with each other. So an opposition is the planets standing directly across from one another, right? So like the sun and the moon is directly across from each other. The moon is going to be in Aquarius and the sun is going to be in Leo. That's 180-degree opposition. So we have other oppositions that's coming along. And so oppositions, all of these conversations in the sky, they beg certain questions. And so oppositions, you want to know, the first thing you want to ask yourself when you figure out, is this going to be an opposition, is, okay, what is the level of intensity going to be? Is this aspect bringing balance? Is it bringing challenge? Do these planets get along? Is it a you scratch my back, I scratch your back thing? You do for me, I do, like, you know what I mean? Like, we get along? Or is it going to be a fight? Do they just not mix like oil and water? That's what you need to find out what's going on. And this is what we're going to talk about. The other type of conversation that's going on is the square. And the square is a 90-degree aspect. It's a hard angle. This is a full-on battle, okay? A full-on battle is bringing tension, it's bringing struggle, it's bringing conflict. And the questions that you should be asking when we're having squares is, what is the solution going to be? Because you have to figure out the solution. Like, what is coming up that's causing this challenge that I have to solve? Right? Also, what squares do is they force you to ask the question, where do I find my strength in this? Right? I know there are certain challenges that I have gone through, and I didn't even know that I had the strength that I had until that challenge, that conflict, that struggle brought it out of me. And so that is what the square is going to do. So it ain't necessarily bad, in my opinion. I'm not going to say I like, because it's not always comfortable, but the squares with the challenging energy that it brings, it always brings the aftermath, is the staying power of what that challenge is unearthing, right? And so when you're having a square, you want to ask yourself, who am I now? Who do I want to be, or who will I be when this challenge is over? Right? And that's all about how you're going to solve that conflict, right? So what is the challenge trying to teach you is what you need to be asking, right? How can I dig deep and find my strength? Okay. And so, yes, people are talking about, oh, you need to go hide under a rock. You need to be scared, and you need to do. No, you don't need to do that. You need to be brave, right? And so people, yes, they're going to be not acting like themselves. You might not be acting like yourself, but if you're informed, you need to check that. Like, you're here and you're having this conversation with me right now. If you feel yourself being irrational, you need to check that shit. You need to calm it down, right? So what I'm saying is, understand that the energy is going to bring about irrational behavior in people. It's going to bring shocking things out. Things are going to shock you. Right? The energy might want to take something away from you, but no, if it takes something away from you, that thing that is taken away from you, it don't serve you, and it's going to replace it with something that will, either immediately or eventually. Okay. But it's your job to figure out what the energy is trying to move you toward. How are you going to do that? By asking yourself those questions that we just asked a few moments ago, right? And so to become a better you got to figure out what these challenges are actually trying to bring you, right? It's the challenges, it's the struggles that teach you your strength. It shows you the depths of who you are. It rips layers into you. And no, it might not always be comfortable. comfortable, but you know what? You do become better. And right, without having those, you will never know who you can be. You never know what you can accomplish. So welcome the challenges. Welcome this energy. Know what's going on so that you can use it to get to where you have to go. And understand that whatever experience it brings you, your whole being is going to know why you will or you won't do something, why you will be with somebody, why you won't, why you will do that job, why you won't, why you will put that business in play, why you won't, why you will have that relationship, while you won't. And guess what? Every single last fiber of you, because of the experience that the challenge is bringing you, is going to know why you will or you won't. And I always tell my son, when you have an experience that moves you in such a way, your toenails, why you know why you going to do something and why you won't. So welcome this. Don't hide. Be brave. Right? There will be heightened emotions, but keep your composure. And you know what? The composed is always in control. The composed always win. Just be prepared. And this is why you're here, because I'm preparing you, right? So if it's raining, you want to have your raincoat, your rain boots, and your umbrella. If you're going to be stepping into battle, you want to have your spear. You want to have your sword. You want to have your shield. And you want to have your plan. You want to have a strategy, right? Because you can't win without a strategy. All right. So what are some of those challenging aspects that are happening? We're going to be having on August the 18th. So I'm going a couple days. The new moon is actually going to be on the 19th. So we got to get into what the energy is doing on the days leading up to the full moon, because like I said, the energy from the full moon is energizing all of this stuff. And you can feel the energy from this particular full moon at least a week or two before and a week or two after. So on August the 18th, Mercury is moving into Leo, and it's going to square Uranus in Taurus. And Uranus is all about, it can be all about chaos. It jostles you. It's all about shocking. It's about rebellion. It's about all of those things that's unconventional. It's about the freedom. It's about the split. It's about breaking things apart. Okay. And Mercury is squaring that. So Mercury right now is actually in retrograde. So Mercury in retrograde is like, this is another thing. Like, this is another layer of the conversations that's happening in the sky. Like, with Mercury being retrograde, it's an element of things from the past coming forward, right? And you're going to probably learn something with regards to where it touches in your house that you didn't know before. You're going to have a piece of information that you didn't know. It might be shocking in a good way or a bad way, for better or worse. You're going to find out. Okay. Then, the same day that it actually squares Uranus, Mercury is going to join the sun. And sometimes we say that when a planet joins the sun, its power can be turned down because it's being burned by the sun. We call that being combust. But in this case, it's far enough away from the sun where it's going to be getting good shimmers from the sun. It's going to be getting highlights. We call this a cazimi. This is auspicious. This is luck and opportunity. And so that information that you actually might get might be the information that you need to make the move that you need to make, the one piece that was missing from the puzzle, the one thing that was hidden from you. So you might learn something that's like, yeah, okay, I got this. All right. So you can make a move to becoming a better you, right? By having that information. Now, on the 19th, the next day, we have Venus in Virgo, and it's squaring Jupiter. Now, that may not be so bad because Venus and Jupiter are what we call benefics. They give gifts. They bring us good things, right? And so Venus rules our money. Venus rules our love. Jupiter just gives blessing on blessing, and it expands everything that it touches. But in this square between the two, it might be like, okay, it's showing you where you overdid something, because Jupiter expands something. So in love, Where are you allowing things to fly that probably shouldn't fly? Where are you sweeping things under a rug? Like, how long have you actually done that? Or how long has your partner allowed you to get away with some stuff? Right now, you just might not be able to get away with it. Okay. Where have you overspent? If we're talking about money, right? Where have you overdone your beauty treatments? Like, you need to slow down on the Botox. Quit with them lip injections right now. I'm joking, but I'm saying, like, Venus rules beauty. And so Jupiter squaring Venus is showing you, like, you OD'd, you overdid it. Chill out. Okay. And in the same day, Venus is going to oppose Saturn. And so that's not necessarily good, because Saturn is we call Saturn the taskmaster, but I like Saturn is like that teacher that has the ruler that sticks their finger out. No, you need to get back in line. You can't do this. Saturn is the parent that enforces the rules. And so if you got out of hand with your Venus, with Jupiter squaring it, then Saturn is going to come into play and have you put boundaries back in place, like fix things. Like now you're going to have to pay the piper with regards to wherever you OD'd, you overdid some things. And it's a fast moving aspect, so it's not going to stick around for too long. But if you fucked up, then Saturn is going to get you back in line, and you're going to fix whatever you messed up with regards to that Venus Jupiter conversation. Okay. And so that's what I wanted to say about that. Now, child, the biggie, we're going to have, like, we have a T square. We have a T square. So I want you to think, we talked about the opposition between the sun and the moon. The sun is in Leo, the moon is in Aquarius. And then, like, imagine if you drew a line from the middle of them, and out at the end of that midline of that line that you drew from the middle of each, like, you have Uranus, and Uranus is what we call T squaring, like you draw in a T, right? So Uranus is what we're saying is T squaring the moon. It's T squaring the sun. Ooh, child. Now, we talked about Uranus being what it embodies. Like, it represents, Uranus wants to give you freedom, for better or worse. It wants to free you from, if it's not serving you, Uranus is going real quick. Uranus represents lightning, shocking, action, disruption, sudden, wake up, shake up. It's the wake up, shake up. Okay. And so with Uranus squaring, it's trying to bring you something, or break you away from something, so it can bring you to something. Shockingly, surprisingly, abruptly, and quick. Okay? Abrupt is the same thing as quick, but you get what I'm saying. And it brings chaos with it. You know what I mean? Or it can bring chaos. I mean, it might bring you something that have to make you move quick, but it's something that you actually wanted, right? So before this actually happens, let me back up a little bit. So you have Uranus is in Taurus. The moon and sun are in Aquarius and Leo. We talked about that, right? Lord. We have another big aspect or conversation that's happening. And this conversation this is usually not a good conversation. And this conversation is the square between Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter and Saturn, they just flat out don't like each other. I mean, not for real. Because maybe they like each other. Maybe they do, but this ain't real. This is not a good conversation. And so Jupiter is in Gemini. And Jupiter is in an air sign. And in Gemini, it tends to be all over the freaking place. Yes, Jupiter expands everything that it touches. It want to give gifts. It wants to do all of those things. But Gemini is an air sign. And so it's all over the goddamn place. It's everywhere. There's no structure to it. It's like, and it can be blown out of proportion. Okay. So then you have Jupiter squaring Saturn. And Saturn is like, oh, hell to the no. Like, that Jupiter kite is not going to fly. Okay? No. We need order. We need order in the court. We need boundaries. Are we following the rules? Like, you giving all of these gifts, you allowing all of this kite to fly. Like, what is this affecting? Right? Is this causing chaos? Have you even checked to see how given this thing is going to affect everything else? No, you haven't. And so we're going to put structure to this. That's what Saturn is doing. But before this square even happens, and it's happening on the same day as the full moon, Lord have mercy. It's being energized by the full moon. So it's even bigger than what it would ordinarily be without this energy giving it that boost. Let's back up a couple days, though. Now, on August the 14th, we had Mars going into Gemini. Now, Mars is like, Mars sets it off. Wherever Mars goes, like it's going into Gemini and it's conjuncting Jupiter. Mars is triggering Jupiter. So Jupiter is already expanding. It's already doing what it's doing. Imagine it being triggered by Mars. It's really going crazy. Mars is energizing Jupiter to go ham. Okay? To go ham. It's like, yes, do you. And it's like, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. It's giving. We can't have all these cars on the road because they're going to crash. No, I'm just kidding. But Mars is energizing Jupiter. And then Mars and Saturn don't get along. So just think Mars is like the go, go, go. I don't think, I'm just going to go. I'm going to get shit done. I don't care what havoc I wreak in the process of getting done what I need to get done and getting what I want. And Saturn is and it's young energies. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm ready to go. And Saturn is the old, like, gray beard. No. You cannot. You need to calm down. And so on the 16th, Mars squares Saturn, agitating Saturn. Like, nah. Look what I did. I set Jupiter off, and this is going to piss you off. So that's adding fuel to the fire. Okay. But again, Saturn is like, never mind who you thought I was. I'm Saturn, bitch. You are not getting away with this. You're not. Okay? You're not. So it's a lot of stuff going on. And that is what makes this energy so crazy. It is like, we don't know really like what is going to happen. But again, like, we got to be prepared. And at the end of the day, this energy is going to bring us to our better selves, and what it is it's going to make us that much closer, because we are supposed to evolve. We are supposed to grow, and at the end of the day, this energy is helping us to do that. How are you going to use it? How is it affecting you in your chart? Well, we about to get into that right now. What is going on, Cancer? So what does the planetary energies hold for you for this August 19th, 2024 full moon that we're having? Well, let me just say, if I haven't said it already, like, this moon is super powerful, and it's going to be invigorating and energizing every other conversation between the stars that's happening in the sky. And so it's giving it power, or giving those conversations power that they would not ordinarily have without the energy of the full moon. Those conversations are strong, but they're even stronger because it's being influenced by the energy and vigor of this full moon. So right now we have Mercury retrograde, and Mercury has been retrograde in the sign of Leo since August the 4th. And so Mercury is going to be squaring Uranus in Taurus. And so people want to have us, scared and tell us we should run and be extra careful. We should, because Uranus actually deals with shocking revelations or shocking behavior from people. It rules lightning, for God's sakes. So just think about that, like just sudden disruption of things. It rules earthquakes. It rules breaking apart and splitting. What that could mean for you is it wants to free you from something that's not serving you and probably put you on a path to get something that is serving you. And that could happen in a shocking or disruptive way. Maybe not. Maybe the fact that you get like a sudden revelation, you make a sudden movement to move toward what is actually serving you and away from what is no longer serving you. And so that's the energy of Uranus. And the energy of Mercury. Mercury is our ideas. It's how we communicate. It's short trips. It's groups. It's siblings. Yes, it does, because it rules it does rule that. It's because it rules the third house. It rules how we express ourselves, how we convey our thoughts, all things communication, all how we exchange ideas, business trips, business transactions, and they're being squared by Uranus. So Mercury is in your second house, your house of self-worth and money. How you feel comfortable and secure with what it is that you own. And that's being squared by Uranus. So are you getting a sudden revelation about how you handle your finances? Uranus in your 11th house, in your house of your highest or your true inner purpose. Are you doing what you need to be doing with your resources? Are you safeguarding them for the purpose of getting toward your true sense of what it is that you need to be accomplishing? Are you reaching your personal goals? Because this is what is ruled this is coming from your 11th house. And so how is that energy clashing with your sense of self-worth? Or how are you getting good jolts of energy from this area that's adding on to your sense of self-worth? I don't necessarily feel like the clash or the square is going to be, so much of a bad thing. If you're having people behave erratically from your friend groups, we're talking about 11th house here, maybe you might need to cut that person off because they're a drain on your sense of self-worth. Or maybe you loan them money. They're always asking for money or something like that all the time. And so you have to suddenly cut that person off. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's probably something that you've been thinking about for the longest, but you actually have to do it right now, because you know what? Now, like, the energy is like, no can do. I can't deal with this anymore. And because you cut certain things off, is not draining your energy, it's not draining your sense of self-worth. You get to move toward more a sense of dignity, because you've done the right thing with cutting off what you need to cut off suddenly. And so you might seem to be acting irrationally. It's not irrationally, you're just getting the energy to do what's right. I say, and maybe you've got some information, that's Mercury, that's making you want to go ahead and make those right decisions. And I say that it's right decisions, and I say that I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, because the sun is actually in Leo, and Leo, or the sun, rules Leo, and it's at home in Leo. So when the sun is in Leo, we're getting all things good from the sun. We're feeling its warm rays. We're feeling energetic. We're feeling happy and joyful and creative and dignified and self-reliant. So we're getting those good impulses from the sun. And Mercury is going to join the sun on the 18th, the same day that it squares Uranus. And we say that when planets join the sun, it might be an aspect that we call combust, which means that the planet's good qualities are being burnt up and smoldered by the sun because it's too close. The sun is too powerful. But in this, that's not the case this time. Mercury is far enough away from the sun to where it's getting energized by the sun, is getting invigorated by the sun. And if it rules ideas, it rules information, it rules exchanges of information, you're getting good information to make those good decisions with regards to your money that adds to your self-worth. So I feel like this is probably going to be a good thing. And when you get that information, I mean, it could be a sudden download of information. It could be somebody just says something to you, or you just get an email or some sort of information that you get, and it's the right information, and you get to act right away, and that builds your resources, that gives to your personal finances and money situation and your sense of self-worth. And so I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. That happens the day before the full moon. And keep in mind, now we have all of that energy. That's being invigorated by the energy of the full moon. The full moon is giving that some oomph. So we'll see. Yes, people might act erratic and things like that, but I don't think that you're unsafe from it. And keep in mind, too, that Taurus is in, or Uranus is in Taurus. Uranus does not like to be in Taurus. So it can't give us the full effects of its irrational, erratic qualities, nor the good ones. And so I think that the power that comes from this square, or that could come from this square, might be a little bit subdued because Uranus doesn't like to be in Taurus. It just doesn't. And so we might be all right there. And so on the 19th, the day of the actual full moon, we have Virgo. We have Venus in Virgo in your third house. And Venus is, beauty. It rules money, luxury, the comforts in life. But guess what? Venus doesn't like to be in Virgo. It feels smothered. It feels choked in Virgo. It's not a long stay in Virgo, but regardless, if it's 2 seconds in there, it's 2 seconds too long, because it doesn't like being in Virgo. It doesn't get to give everything that it needs to give because Virgo is too choking, and its critical nature is too smothering and too restrictive for Venus. So we're not getting the full effect of Venus. If Venus is in your third house, your house of communication, your house of siblings, your house of short travel, and that's Virgo, then those trips might be a little too sour. Or if it is dealing with words, you might be a little bit too critical. You might not speak with the diplomacy and just tact. You just might be, the words just might come out sour. You know what I mean? Your emails might come across as just too jarring, like too critical. And so your communication is not that great. If it rules our finances too. Like, are you too critical in your finances? Like, maybe you're trying to invest, but you can only see the dips of the day, but you don't see the trajectory upward of the performance of the funds or that investment that you want to put your money in. And yes, it allows you to be, Venus in Virgo allows us to be critical, and it allows us to look at the details, but to a fault, you know what I mean? And then it's being squared by Jupiter, and Jupiter does not like to be in Gemini. Jupiter expands everything it touches. And yes, it's a benevolent, and it gives and it blesses us, but it could be over optimistic. It could be over indulgent. It could just overdo on everything with regards to Jupiter, to a point where it's not good for us. So although Venus is a benefic, and although Jupiter is a benefic, and they give blessings, this is showing us where we can overdo things, where things just necessarily isn't that right. The square is showing us, but not to worry, because we do have an opposition between Venus and Virgo that's going to happen on the same day. So right after it squares, Saturn is going to oppose Venus, or Venus is going to oppose Saturn from your ninth house. And it's going to show you how your Venus is not in alignment in Virgo, or where it's not in alignment in Virgo with your highest ideals of your personal truths. Okay, so it's going to show you where those flaws are with regards to that, and it's going to help you put boundaries in place so that they can align with your personal truths and your personal philosophies and things like that. Moving on in the same day, like getting to the actual full moon. So on the full moon, what the full moon represents is an opposition. That means that when we have an opposition, that means that the planets stand 180 degrees across from one another, having a conversation. And the conversation or the nature of the conversation really determines how those planets actually gets along when we have an opposition. The sun doesn't necessarily not get along with the moon. That's not true. Yes, they are opposite. The sun can represent the father, authority figures, and the moon represents maternal instincts. I think we need those two to create life. So it's not it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just can what can color the conversation is other planets that are involved. So with this full moon, I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing. Just the energies are super potent. And so hear me out here. We have the sun in Leo. The sun is exalted in Leo. It's at home. So it's going to be, we're going to feel energetic. We're going to feel confident. We're going to feel bold. We like how we feel when the sun is actually in Leo, because we're getting those good qualities of the sun. And so the sun is staring back across at the moon, and the moon holds our deepest, innermost thoughts and ideals. And those ideals can be what we think of ourselves, those ideas that we want to bring to life, but for whatever reason, we don't have the energy at the moment to bring those ideas with regards to the house that the moon is sitting in to light. But we know on a very deep level what the truth is regarding that house. So you have the sun shining light on those innermost ideals, those hunches, those instincts, those things that we want to express that we cannot express. The moon is invigorating it with all its goodness, and it's giving it life. It's breathing life into those ideals, and it's across in your eighth house of other people's resources, Cancer. And so this energy is about how you share, how the give and take. And I think that the goodness is going to come. Goodness is going to come of that. And yes, it's being squared from the 11th house. So the moon is in other people's resources, and in the house of transformation, and the house of sexuality, and it's getting squared by Uranus and Taurus. What we said, Uranus is not at its full strength in Taurus, so I don't necessarily think that it could be all bad. And so you're getting energy from that way too, but because the sun is shining goodness onto that moon of our innermost ideals, and it's being squared from your 11th house of your true purpose. Like, I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. Like, what do you bring into life that's in alignment with how you give and receive resources, and how you are becoming this person who's living their truth? Not so bad. You might make sudden decisions to step into who you want to be, and that might be jarring for some people, but I don't necessarily think that that is a bad thing. And I always say that when we have squares, and when we have when we have squares and we have the energy that the squares bring is asking us, where do we need to show up in our strength? Where is our strength? Those challenges, they show us, who we are, like those experiences that we have from the squares. If we don't have them, I don't ever think that we would step in who we're supposed to be, because I really feel like they rip a new depth into us. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. So you go ahead with your bad self and you become who you're supposed to be, Cancer, because I think it's going to be good. I think that if people are acting erratic, you need to be the calm one, because the person that's calm, the person that keeps their composure, is always the person that wins. If you're having struggles, if it's raining on your parade in any sort of way, you are prepared because you know what the energy is bringing. So I always say, if you know it's going to rain, bring your rain boots and your umbrella, your raincoat, and you're good. Keep it pushing. And then on another note, if it's going to be bringing you struggles, have your sword and have your shield and be ready to go. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you're going to be fighting like literally, but if you're fighting to become the best you better put your dukes up and get to going. Don't surrender. Don't hide. Be brave, because it's going to take courage to win in this energy. Now, moving on in the same day, guys, this full moon and all of its vigor is giving power to the square between Jupiter in Gemini and Saturn in Pisces. Now, we talked about Jupiter and Gemini in your 12th house. That's the things that is not seen to you. That is your higher self, your hidden, what's hidden beneath the surface, your karma, your house of self-undoing, your house of soul growth, the house of your hidden strength and your hidden weaknesses, right? Your dreams, private affairs. I hope you're not having an affair with anybody, right? Spiritual studies. It's being squared by Saturn and Pisces. Now, Pisces is already is ruling your 9th house, and that's a spiritual house too. Let's talk about it. Let's back up for a second. Mars on the 14th hopped into Gemini, acting as what do I want it, like a trigger for Gemini, because Mars is raw energy, and where Mars is untamed, it doesn't think, it just goes and it just gives this fire to whatever planet it conjuncts, and it gives it some energy. And it's not directed energy. Sometimes we need that energy because it gives us that thing to get up out of bed and to get shit done. But Jupiter does not like to be in Gemini. And in Gemini, like I said, it could be impulsive. It could be overindulgent. It could be just irresponsible. And that is being ignited by Mars. I don't necessarily think that's a good thing. And so here's the reason why a square is not always necessarily bad, because it's being squared, or this energy is being squared by Pisces and Saturn. And Pisces knows the boundaries. Saturn knows the boundaries. Saturn knows the limitations, and it's personal for you. So it's not going to let Jupiter get out of hand and wreck your life without, correction. It's going to show you where you stepped out of line and what you need to put back in place to get things in control. And to keep in mind that this story has been playing out for quite some time, because Jupiter and Saturn actually came together in December of 2020. When two planets come together, that's a sign of new seeds being planted. So what were you working on? What seeds were planted in 2020? With regards to Jupiter and Saturn, you're going to have to figure that out. When two planets come together, that's planting the idea, that's planting the seed. When they oppose each other, that's when you see the fullness of that seed. That's when you see the fruit that seed actually bears, for better or for worse. And so when we have the square is showing you what's working so far, because it's like the halfway point, and what is not. So what is working with regards to that seed that you planted and what it's not? You see how like there's a divine order to everything. It's not going to let it get all the way to fruition without giving you a chance to correct what you need to correct. It's showing you like where do you need to develop your strength, like where do you need to do the pruning, like where do you need to do the cultivating so that this seed that you planted could blossom in its fullest potential, right? Not so bad, not so bad. It might be uncomfortable, but it's in those uncomfortable experiences that we gather our greatest strength, that we come to know who we truly are. If it wasn't for some of my hardest experiences, my greatest challenges, I would never know the depth of strength that I have. And so you have to be very grateful and you have to be thankful for some of the battles that you have, some of the struggles, some of the conflicts, because they challenge you in ways that helps you to release parts of you that you don't need and put on parts of you that you need to carry you forward to the next series of evolution in your life. And so guys, if you learned anything from this, please like and subscribe, share. Let me know in the comments how this energy is handling you or how you're handling it. I hope you're handling it and not the latter, because you're prepared, right? Because you know what the heck is going on. The person that's prepared, the person that's tamed and calm are the ones that win. And I want to see you guys win. Let me know how you're winning. And until next time, guys, keep your hearts open and your spirits connected. Ciao for now.